Hi everyone, I'm Wendy. So yes, this time I speak English because I'm going to interview a friend from Australia, a comedian, and also she is the Younger Girls runner, which is the only female all stand-up in Sydney. So hi, Guneet.
Hi.
Yeah, could you please briefly introduce yourself?
My name's Guneet. I'm 26. As Wendy said, I also do stand-up comedy, and I run a women's comedy night.
So how long have you been doing stand-up comedy?
It's hard to say exactly, just because the lockdowns meant there were really large gaps, months where I wasn't able to perform.
Yeah.
But almost 4 years.
Oh, 4 years. So you started when you was 22.
Yeah.
So what brings you to the stand-up comedy?
It was honestly just luck. A friend of mine signed up to do a comedy night, quite randomly, and she said that she kind of wanted me to join in, like, solidarity.
Yeah.
Because it was her first time performing as well. So I was like, all right, I'll sign up. No one's gonna put me on. No one knows me. I'll just sign up. No harm in signing up. And then I signed up, and they did put me on. So I panicked for a while, and then wrote a set, did it, really enjoyed doing it, and sort of felt that it was something that I had to keep going with.
Yeah.
So, what is your comedian idol? Or do you have any?
Sure. There are lots of comedians that I really love. Becky Lucas, I think, is really amazing. James Acaster, I've watched all of his shows on Netflix many times. And yeah, Ashlyn B as well is a smaller one. She's still on Netflix. But one that less people have heard of, who I also just really love.
What fascinates you most in the comedy?
I like performing in general, and I think there's just kind of like an art to it of like performing every night and almost nights and getting better at doing the same jokes or tweaking the jokes, or some nights you perform one joke and it does really well, and you perform the same joke a different night to a different crowd and it doesn't go as well. So I guess the roller coaster of it all kind of keeps you tied to it.
Do you have a different persona when you're performing, or is you on the stage is the same person?
I think it's a version of myself.
Okay.
But yeah, I wouldn't say that it's me exactly. For a while, I told a few of my friends that I was going to try and be less awkward on stage. And they said, why would you do that? Because the fact that you're really awkward is quite charming and funny, and you would lose something if you were not awkward. And then after that, I was like, okay, I think I just need to play up the awkwardness now. So now I'm more awkward than I feel sometimes on stage.
And you mentioned about the awkwardness, and I noticed you kept doing this one, and you also, when you're performing, you also love doing this. So is this a part of your habit, or just you wanted to?
I think it's just a habit or something I do when I'm thinking. I haven't put it's definitely not deliberate.
Okay.
It's not it's not calculated.
Yeah. Congratulations. So it's happened recently that you were making the Raw Comedy International Grand Final. So, and I noticed some of your jokes are about your experiences as a woman. So I'm wondering, do you take the stand-up comedy as a way to make your voice being heard, or it's just a joke?
I try and have it be both, because, like, yeah, I have to write from my own experiences, because if I'm doing stand-up comedy as, like, again, a version of myself, it'd be really weird if I went on stage and then, I don't know, talked about men's issues. And I would also just have a harder time writing from a personal perspective in that way.
Yeah.
I talk about women's experiences because I'm a woman writing about being a woman, who is me. But at the same time, I still want the whole audience to laugh. I don't want it to just be women who are laughing. I perform at like a lot of venues, a lot of nights, and it's not uncommon for me to perform in front of a crowd that is predominantly men.
Yeah.
So even when I'm writing jokes about periods or whatever it is, I try and write in lines to still hook them in or get them on side. Even if maybe there's a bit more resistant with that sort of material. Yeah, there are other jokes that I have. I have longer jokes about periods where I will sometimes ask the crowd if it's okay if I do a period joke. And I think the act of asking means that they'll sort of become more okay with it than if you just did it. I don't know. I don't know if that's even true, but it's just what I've been doing. I just think that like people universally find things funny. So I think as long as you can explain your experiences in a way that like is relatable to other people are gonna laugh.
I really enjoyed your period jokes, and I believe that's really important experiences for all women. It takes almost like a quarter life for women, but it's so rare to hear female comedians to talk about that. So I really appreciate that you do that on the stage, and I feel, and also it's really funny. In your opening jokes, you also talk about your identity. So is there something that bothered you in real life that people confused with your identity? Or
I don't really mind when people can't tell where I'm from or get confused about my identity. I think I just write about it because it's just nice to have people, to have that representation, I guess. Earlier this year, actually, I had one woman approach me. She said that she saw me perform at an open mic 3 or 4 years ago when I just started, and she saw me. She was like, "Oh, like just." She was an Indian woman. She was just telling me that she felt like she saw me, thought, "Oh, I could do it too," and I was like, "Oh my god!" Like I feel like it's nice to have it out there.
I asked these questions for them as well, so this is also these questions to you. So sometimes we feel a little bit awkward, or it's a little bit uncomfortable when being the only female within the lineup, and because sometimes we don't know if that's because of the I tick all the box of the diversity quota, or you find me funny or something like that. So I'm wondering, how do you feel like if you? I'm not sure if you experienced that. That's
yeah, yeah, I've definitely experienced that. I don't like it either, but I at this stage as well, I've seen so many men who are not that great at comedy be doing well at it. So I never really feel that like I haven't earned my spot on this particular lineup. I feel like it's quite rare for me to have that feeling unless I'm doing a really particularly good show. So sometimes I will get imposter syndrome, but I feel like rarely is it ever to do with me being a woman on a lineup that's predominantly men. It is nice to have multiple perspectives in comedy with like gender or race or everything, and it doesn't feel good to be the only woman on a lineup. Yeah. I can't even articulate why, but it's just like the lack of representation, or you feel, what I hate about it actually, sorry, it's taken me a while to loop around, is that if I'm the only woman on the lineup and I'm having a bad day that night, I'm worried that those audience members are going to go home and think, oh, that girl wasn't that funny. I guess women in comedy aren't that funny. Oh. So that's what I hate about it, is this sense of like, I feel a greater sense of responsibility to do well, whereas if one of the men on that lineup don't do well, they just get to be like, oh, shit gig, whatever, and no one's gonna turn to them and be like, oh, well, I guess men aren't that funny.
Oh, have you ever heard the real feedbacks from the audiences like that?
I had other little things. I think like sexism in comedy is getting vastly better as time goes on. Like I've talked to comedians, women in comedy who have been doing it for 20 years, or like really long times, and they just have like horror stories. They have stories of like, get your tits out, and things like that, which is not like something I've luckily ever had to experience because of. But like, yeah, I still will deal with like small things. I think one time I was about to go on stage and I was like one of the few women on the lineup, and the first woman that had performed that night so far, and a guy in the front row, I heard him say as I was walking on stage, oh, this better be good. And I was like, oh, I guess it better be.
That's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, so that kind of like, not even that it was subtle, but that kind of less aggressive sexism still exists and is quite common, I think.
What is your goal as a comedian?
I'm not too sure about like long-term goals. I'm definitely trying to work towards an hour later in the year, so that's I guess a short-term goal I have. I just enjoy writing, I enjoy performing, and I'm just kind of, there's not really anything else I want to do. I would love one day actually to be doing TV comedy writing. I think that would be amazing if I could be in the writer's room for a sitcom or something, but...
Does that mean you're going to have a special at the end of this year? Or
I'm planning on doing a show for Fringe.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that will be like October.
Yeah, September, October.
Okay. Great, I'm looking forward to that. Thanks, Guneet, for today's interview. So if you are interested in comedy, please come. If you are interested in doing comedy, please come to open mics in Melbourne, Sydney, or anywhere in your city. And please support comedy. Just go to the comedy shows and buy a good drink. So later on, I'm gonna interview more comedians. So if you're interested, please follow me. Thank you, I'm Wendy. Bye.